In this lesson, we're going to take a look at how to solve two-step equations. So how are these different than one-step equations? A lot of equations have more than just one step to solve. So that means that we have more than one number that we need to move over to be able to isolate our variable. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to expand and simplify everything. Then what we're going to do is any numbers that are being added or subtracted, we are going to move those numbers. And last, we'll move anything that is being multiplied or divided. So when we have an expression that we're evaluating, we use BEDMAS, or when we're simplifying, we use BEDMAS. So first, if there are any brackets, we're going to evaluate that, then exponents, division or multiplication in the order they appear in, and addition and subtraction in the order they appear in. When we're solving equations, we're working backwards to figure out how much a variable is worth. And so we're actually starting with adding and subtracting. Whoops. So we're starting with our subtraction and addition, and then we're moving to multiplication and division. Now, if we had exponents or BEDMAS, those would be brackets. So what you can see is that BEDMAS is backwards when we are solving. So this is because we are undoing everything to figure out how much our variable is worth. So we are starting from the answer and working backwards, and that means we are doing BEDMAS in reverse order. So all addition and subtraction is undone first, then multiplication and division. So let's take a look at a few examples. So here we have 3a minus 5 is equal to 13. So to isolate the variable, that's the letter a, I need to remove this 3 and I need to remove this 5. So the 3 in front of the a means a multiplication of 3, and then the 5 is a subtraction. So those are the two things that I need to remove. Remember that subtraction and addition are undone first. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove my subtraction of 5, move that to the other side, and then I will remove the 3. So the opposite of subtracting 5 is to add 5. So this is what I want to move. So I'm going to start with what it is that I have left. So once I move the subtraction of 5, I'm left with 3a on this side. On the other side, what do I already have? I have a 13. And now I'm going to look at that 5. What is the opposite of subtracting 5? And that is to add 5. So now what I'm going to do is I want to move the 3. So I'm going to undo a multiplication of 3. When I do that, what I'm left with is a. I'm going to simplify here. 13 plus 5 is equal to 18. So that's what was already on that side. And now I need to do the opposite of multiplying by 3. And the opposite of multiplying by 3 is to divide by 3. And I'm just going to evaluate that. 18 divided by 3 is equal to 6. So undoing first subtraction, then the multiplication, a is equal to 6. I can come back up here. 3 times 6 is 18, and then 18 subtract 5 is 13. So here I'm evaluating the left side of the equation and then comparing it to the right side. And when I'm evaluating, I use BEDMAS. I do my multiplication first and then my subtraction. When I'm solving, I'm working backwards, so I'm first undoing that last thing, and then I'm undoing the multiplication or division. All right, let's take a look at another example. So 4b minus 5 equals 11. So I have the 4 is a multiplication of 4, and then I have a subtraction of 5. So I want to remove subtraction first, then multiplication. So if I remove my subtraction of 5, what I'm left with is 4b on the left side of the equation, and 11 is what was already on the right. Now I will move the 5 The opposite of subtracting by 5 is to add 5. In my next step, I want to remove the 4. That means I'm going to be left with just b in front of the equal sign, so I've now isolated my variable. B is on the left by itself. Now I'm going to simplify. 11 plus 5 is equal to 16. That is what was already on the right side, and now I will undo the multiplication of 4, and the opposite of multiplying by 4 is to divide by 4. So last time I wrote it as a fraction, I wrote a line under 16 and then a 4. You can do that, or you can write it like this. It doesn't matter. And then I will evaluate that. 16 divided by 4 is equal to 4. Okay. In this question, we have a c on both sides of the equation. So that's part of the first step of simplifying first, and that means that we want to put all of our variables together. So what I want to move is the 3c. I want to move it from the right side of the equation to the left. So what did I already have on the left? I had 10c. Now I want to move that 3c over. And over here, there's no sign in front of it, which means it was being added. It's a positive 3c. So to move it to the other side, we need to subtract it. That's the opposite of adding. And then on the opposite, or the right side of the equation, what I had left is a negative 14. I'm going to simplify here. 10c subtract 3c is equal to 7c. No changes on the other side. And now what I want to do is move the 7. So the other way that I can show what I'm doing when I have a number in front of my variable or a multiplication is I can just very quickly on both sides add this in and not write a new line. 7 divided by 7 is equal to 1, so I'm left with just c. And negative 14 divided by 7 is equal to negative 2. So c equals negative 2 is the solution to this equation. Okay, one more question here. So we want to, once again, move the 2d to the left side so that it is put together or simplified with this 5d. But I also have a plus 9 on the left side, and I want to move that number to the right side of the equation. So, starting with what I already had, 5d. I'm going to move the 2d this way and the plus 9 that way. So right now this is a positive 2d, which means I was adding it. The opposite is going to be to subtract it on the left side. And then the 9 was being added on this side, which means to move it, we are going to subtract it, and we're left with nothing here because we've moved the 2d. So 0 subtract 9 is just equal to negative 9. Now we are going to simplify. 5d subtract 2d is equal to 3d. We had negative 9 on the other side. And now we need to move the 3 once again. Whatever is in front of a variable is a multiplication, and so we can very quickly show our division like this. 3d divided by 3 is equal to d, and negative 9 divided by 3 is equal to negative 3. So we just saw over here some simplifying when we have a variable on each side of the equation. We're going to need to do that again over here in these questions. Here we have multiple variables. They're on the same side of the equation, so we want to put those together. We want to simplify, and then we want to take this constant, so it's a number only, no variable, and move it to the other side of the equation. So we just want to do some simplifying first. So 4e plus 2e, when we add those together, we get 6e. On the other side of the equation, we had a 20, and the 2 we actually want to move to the opposite side. So we want to put it together with the 20. And the opposite of adding 2 is to subtract 2. Now what I want to do is get rid of the 6 in front of the e. So I'm going to have the e left. I'm going to simplify. 20 subtract 2 is 18. And now I'm going to move the 6 over, so the opposite of multiplying by 6 is to divide by 6. And 18 divided by 6 is equal to 3. Okay, one last question. So we have two variables that need to be simplified. We're going to put them together. A negative 2f plus 9f, and that is equal to 7f. So those are staying in front or on the left side of the equation. And then we have this negative 6, this constant that we want to move to the opposite side. And I'm going to simplify right away here. So I have a negative 2 plus 10. That's equal to 8. And then I need to move this subtraction of 6. The opposite of subtracting 6 is adding 6. So when we move it to the other side, it will be an addition of 6. So now we will simplify. And I want to move the 7 as well that's in front of the f. So I'm going to isolate for f. 8 plus 6 is 14. And then I want to move that 7, so that's a multiplication. The opposite is to divide by 7. So f is equal to 14 divided by 7, which is equal to 2. So f equals 2 is the solution to this equation.